What if I told you that the most powerful men in the world aren't the ones shouting the loudest or demanding attention at every gathering? What if the real architects of success, the true masters of their destiny, are the ones who seem emotionally distant, almost untouchable? Welcome back to Official Sigma Male, where we decode the mysteries of the Sigma mindset that 97% of society completely misunderstands. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most controversial aspects of Sigma behavior, emotional distance. Critics call it cold, heartless, even sociopathic. But here's what they don't understand. Sigma emotional distance isn't a defect. It's not a lack of empathy, and it's definitely not an inability to love. It's a carefully crafted strategy that separates the wolves from the sheep, the leaders from the followers, the Sigmas from everyone else. You see, while most men are desperately seeking validation, constantly explaining their feelings, and wearing their hearts on their sleeves, the Sigma male has discovered something profound. Emotional distance is emotional intelligence in its purest form. It's the difference between being reactive and being strategic, between being controlled by your emotions and controlling them like a master puppeteer. Think about the most successful men you know, the CEOs who built empires, the athletes who dominated their sports, the innovators who changed the world. What do they all have in common? They didn't get there by being emotionally available to everyone who demanded their attention. They mastered the art of selective emotional investment, and that's exactly what we're going to explore today. But before we continue, if you're ready to understand the true psychology behind Sigma behavior and unlock the strategies that set Sigma males apart from the 95% of men who will never reach their full potential, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. This channel is your gateway to Sigma mastery, and trust me, what you're about to learn will change how you see relationships, success, and emotional intelligence forever. The Sigma's emotional distance isn't about being heartless, it's about being heart-smart. It's about understanding that in a world where everyone is fighting for emotional real estate in your mind, only a select few deserve access to your inner sanctuary. This isn't coldness. This is wisdom. This isn't lack of love. This is love with boundaries, love with purpose, love with strategy. Over the next 6 chapters, we're going to dissect exactly how and why Sigma males use emotional distance as their secret weapon. We'll explore how this approach actually deepens meaningful relationships while filtering out the superficial ones. We'll uncover why women are often more attracted to emotionally distant men despite what they claim they want. And most importantly, we'll show you how to implement this strategy in your own life without losing your humanity. So buckle up, because we're about to challenge everything you think you know about emotions, relationships, and what it really means to love strategically in a world that confuses emotional availability with emotional weakness. 1. Strategic solitude. The Sigma male's relationship with solitude isn't accidental. It's architectural. While most men fear being alone and constantly seek the comfort of crowds, validation from groups, and approval from society, the Sigma has discovered that solitude isn't isolation, it's incubation. It's in these moments of strategic withdrawal that the Sigma forges his strongest weapon, unshakable self-reliance. But here's what separates Sigma solitude from simple introversion or social anxiety. It's completely intentional. The Sigma doesn't retreat from social situations because he's uncomfortable or lacking in social skills. He retreats because he's calculated the cost-benefit analysis of his social investments, and he's chosen to invest his most valuable resource, his time and emotional energy, in activities that compound his value rather than drain it. Think about it this way. While other men are spending their evenings in bars, desperately trying to impress strangers, posting every moment of their lives on social media for likes and comments, or constantly texting friends and romantic interests to maintain artificial connections, the Sigma is in his workshop, literal or metaphorical, building something that matters, He's reading, learning, creating, strategizing, or simply recharging his mental batteries for the battles that actually count. This strategic use of solitude creates what psychologists call emotional independence. But the Sigma takes it further. He develops what I call emotional sovereignty. He becomes his own source of validation, his own best company, his own most trusted advisor. When you don't need others to feel complete, when you can genuinely enjoy your own presence, when you can find fulfillment in your own thoughts and projects, you operate from a position of abundance rather than scarcity. Here's where it gets interesting. This emotional sovereignty is magnetic. When someone doesn't need you but chooses to spend time with you anyway, that choice carries weight. It has meaning. It's not born from desperation, loneliness, or social conditioning. It's born from genuine appreciation and strategic selection. The Sigma's presence becomes valuable precisely because it's not constantly available. Let's break down the practical mechanics of strategic solitude. First, it creates space for deep work. While other men are constantly interrupted by social obligations, relationship maintenance, and the exhausting dance of keeping everyone happy, the Sigma has carved out uninterrupted blocks of time where he can focus intensely on his goals, his craft, his vision. This is where excellence is born, in the quiet moments when you're alone with your ambitions and the determination to realize them. Second, strategic solitude serves as a filtering mechanism. When you're not always available, when you don't jump at every social invitation, when you don't immediately respond to every message or call, you quickly discover who actually values your presence versus who simply expects it. The Sigma learns to distinguish between people who appreciate his time and those who take it for granted. This natural filtering process ensures that his social circle consists of high-value individuals who respect boundaries and understand quality over quantity. Third, and perhaps most importantly, strategic solitude builds what I call emotional calluses. Just as physical calluses protect your hands from damage during hard work, emotional calluses protect your psyche from the constant friction of social interaction, criticism, and the energy-draining demands of others. The Sigma develops a thick skin, not through bitterness or cynicism, but through the confident detachment that comes from knowing he can thrive completely on his own. Consider the most successful entrepreneurs, artists, and leaders throughout history. What do they all have in common? They spent significant periods in solitude, thinking, planning, creating, and refining their vision away from the noise and opinions of others. Steve Jobs had his meditation retreats. Einstein had his sailing trips where he'd think in complete silence. Tesla worked alone in his laboratory for hours, days, sometimes weeks. This wasn't antisocial behavior. This was strategic incubation. The Sigma understands that breakthrough thinking rarely happens in committee. Innovation doesn't emerge from group consensus. Personal transformation doesn't occur in crowded rooms. These things happen in the quiet spaces between the noise, in the solitary moments when you can hear your own thoughts clearly and follow them to their logical conclusions without interference or judgment from others. But here's the crucial distinction. Strategic solitude isn't about becoming a hermit or avoiding all human contact. It's about being selective and intentional with your social energy. The Sigma engages with others when it serves a purpose, when there's value to be created, lessons to be learned, or genuine connections to be forged. But he doesn't engage out of obligation, boredom, or the fear of missing out. This approach naturally creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, one of the most powerful psychological principles for creating attraction and maintaining interest. When your presence is unpredictable, when people can't take your attention for granted, when spending time with you feels like a privilege rather than an expectation, your social value skyrockets. The Sigma's strategic solitude also serves as a form of emotional reset. While other men accumulate social and emotional baggage throughout their days, absorbing the stress, drama, and negativity of everyone around them, The Sigma regularly cleanses his emotional palate through solitude. He processes experiences, learns from interactions, and consciously chooses what emotional residue to carry forward and what to leave behind. This emotional hygiene practice keeps the Sigma operating at peak psychological performance. He doesn't carry the accumulated frustrations, disappointments, and energy drains that weigh down men who are constantly plugged into the social matrix. Instead, he approaches each new interaction with a clean slate, fresh energy, and clear judgment, unclouded by the emotional debris of previous encounters. Perhaps most powerfully, strategic solitude allows the Sigma to maintain his authentic self in a world that constantly pressures men to conform, to fit in, to modulate their behavior for social acceptance. In solitude, there's no audience to perform for, no social expectations to meet, no persona to maintain. This is where the Sigma reconnects with his core identity, his true values, his genuine desires and ambitions. The result is a man who shows up in social situations as his genuine self, rather than a socially acceptable version of himself. This authenticity is both rare and magnetic in a world full of men who change their personalities depending on who they're trying to impress. The Sigma's consistency, his refusal to be different people for different audiences, creates trust, respect, and genuine attraction. Strategic solitude isn't about building walls. It's about building a fortress around your most valuable asset, your authentic self. It's about creating a sacred space where you can think clearly, act intentionally, and choose consciously rather than simply reacting to the demands and expectations of others. In a world that profits from your distraction, your solitude becomes your rebellion. In a society that feeds on your emotional availability, your strategic distance becomes your power. 2. The attraction paradox. Here's the paradox that drives dating coaches crazy and confuses 90% of men. Women consistently say they want emotionally available, sensitive, communicative partners, yet they're magnetically drawn to emotionally distant men. This isn't hypocrisy. It's biology, psychology, and evolutionary wiring working exactly as designed. The Sigma male has cracked this code, not through manipulation or games, but by understanding a fundamental truth. Attraction isn't logical, it's emotional, and emotions respond to scarcity, challenge, and the unknown far more powerfully than they respond to availability and predictability. When a man is emotionally distant, not cold, but strategically reserved, he triggers what psychologists call the uncertainty principle of attraction. The human brain is wired to pay more attention to incomplete information than complete information. Think about it. Which captures your attention more? A book where you know the ending, or one filled with mystery and unpredictable plot twists? The emotionally distant Sigma creates what I call emotional white space, gaps that the other person's imagination fills with possibilities, projections, and intrigue. While the overly available man leaves no room for mystery, wonder, or pursuit, the Sigma leaves space for others to invest mentally and emotionally in figuring him out. But here's where most men get it wrong. They think emotional distance means being rude, dismissive, or playing juvenile games. The Sigma's emotional distance is sophisticated. It's about being selectively vulnerable, strategically present, and maintaining your own emotional center regardless of external pressures. Consider how this plays out in real interactions. When most men meet someone they're attracted to, they immediately begin the process of emotional oversharing, revealing their entire life story, their insecurities, their hopes and dreams, their availability for any and every activity. They think this transparency will create connection, but instead it eliminates mystery and reduces their perceived value. The Sigma takes the opposite approach. He shares strategically, revealing just enough to create genuine connection while maintaining enough mystery to keep the other person engaged and curious. He's not playing games, he's playing chess. Every revelation is intentional, every vulnerability is calculated, every moment of emotional availability is earned rather than freely given. This approach activates what psychologists call the investment principle. When someone has to work to earn your emotional openness, when they have to prove themselves worthy of your vulnerability, they become more invested in the outcome. People value what they work for far more than what's freely given. The attraction paradox also works because emotional distance demonstrates several high-value traits simultaneously. It shows self-control, emotional stability, independence, and high standards. These aren't just attractive qualities. They're survival indicators that trigger deep, primal attraction responses. A man who can remain emotionally centered while others around him are reactive demonstrates leadership potential. A man who doesn't need constant emotional validation shows strength and security. A man who chooses when and how to be vulnerable displays emotional intelligence and strategic thinking. Women often test men's emotional boundaries not because they want them to crumble, but because they want to see if those boundaries exist at all. The Sigma passes these tests not through coldness, but through consistency. His emotional temperature remains stable regardless of external pressure. Here's the sophisticated part. The Sigma's emotional distance actually creates deeper intimacy when he does choose to be vulnerable. Because his emotional walls are real and strong, when he chooses to lower them for someone specific, that moment carries tremendous weight and meaning. It's not casual, it's sacred. This selectivity makes his emotional investment incredibly valuable. When everyone gets your vulnerability, it's worthless. When only a chosen few earn access to your inner world, that access becomes precious, meaningful, and deeply bonding. The attraction paradox works because it mirrors natural mating dynamics. In nature, the most attractive mates are those who demonstrate choice, selectivity, and high standards. They don't mate with just anyone. They choose carefully, and that selectivity makes them more desirable to potential partners. The Sigma embodies this principle through emotional distance. He's not available to everyone because he's valuable enough to be selective. This isn't arrogance, it's accurate self-assessment and strategic positioning. 3. Emotional economics. The Sigma male treats emotions like currency, finite, valuable, and requiring strategic investment. While most men give their emotional energy away freely, creating emotional inflation where their care becomes worthless, the Sigma operates with emotional scarcity that makes his investment precious. Think of it this way: when everyone gets your attention has no value. When your emotional availability is unlimited, it becomes meaningless. The Sigma understands that emotional economics follow the same rules as financial economics. Scarcity creates value, and poor investments lead to bankruptcy. Most men operate with emotional socialism, distributing their care equally to everyone, regardless of merit or reciprocity. They invest heavily in people who drain them, situations that don't serve them, and relationships that diminish their value. They're buying emotional junk bonds while ignoring blue-chip opportunities. The Sigma conducts emotional due diligence. Before investing his emotional energy, he asks, does this person reciprocate? Do they add value to my life? Are they worthy of my trust and vulnerability? If the answer is no, he doesn't invest, not from coldness, but from wisdom. This creates emotional leverage. When your care must be earned, when your emotional presence is a privilege rather than an expectation, your emotional currency appreciates dramatically. People value what they work for far more than what's freely given. The Sigma also practices emotional compound interest. By investing selectively in high-quality people and meaningful pursuits, he creates relationships that generate ongoing returns. These become emotional assets that appreciate over time rather than liabilities that drain his resources. This economic mindset protects him from energy vampires, relationship parasites, and emotional manipulators who target generous men. Because he evaluates every emotional exchange for its return on investment, he quickly identifies and avoids takers while building relationships with givers. The result isn't emotional poverty, it's emotional abundance. When you invest wisely, you have more to give. The Sigma's emotional distance creates the very wealth that allows him to love deeply when he chooses to invest. 4. Selective vulnerability. The Sigma's greatest strength isn't invulnerability, it's knowing exactly when and with whom to be vulnerable. While most men either share everything with everyone or build impenetrable walls, the Sigma masters selective vulnerability, strategic authenticity that creates profound connections with worthy people. Vulnerability without boundaries isn't authentic connection, it's emotional exhibitionism. True vulnerability requires discernment. It's not sharing everything with everyone, it's sharing the right things with the right people at the right time. The Sigma's approach is like a master jeweler placing precious stones. He doesn't scatter diamonds randomly. Each placement is strategic, creating maximum impact and beauty. His emotional revelations are carefully positioned to build deeper relationships with people who have earned access to his authentic self. This serves multiple purposes. First, it protects him from emotional exploitation. In a world full of people who weaponize vulnerabilities, selective vulnerability becomes essential armor. Second, it creates emotional intimacy gradients, layers of increasing closeness that must be earned through consistent behavior and proven trustworthiness. The Sigma observes before he reveals. He watches how people handle small confidences before sharing larger ones. He notices how they treat others' vulnerabilities, maintain boundaries, and respond to trust. This observation period identifies people worthy of deeper connection. When the Sigma chooses vulnerability, it's intentional and impactful. Because his emotional walls are real and meaningful, when he lowers them, that moment carries tremendous weight. The person receiving his vulnerability understands they're being given something precious and rare. This approach also serves as a relationship filter. People who demand immediate emotional access or become frustrated by his measured approach reveal themselves as poor investments. Meanwhile, those who respect his process and prove themselves worthy become valuable, long-term connections. The result is a man who forms incredibly deep relationships with the right people while maintaining emotional sovereignty with everyone else. He's not emotionally unavailable. He's emotionally strategic, creating connection through the art of selective authenticity. While everyone overshares on social media, the Sigma male's mystery becomes his ultimate weapon. Being partially unknown is far more powerful than complete transparency. Mystery isn't deception, it's strategic information control. The Sigma reveals enough to connect, but maintains intrigue to keep people mentally invested. He answers honestly, but doesn't volunteer unnecessary details. Our brains crave unsolved puzzles. When someone presents incomplete information, we automatically work to fill gaps. This mental investment creates psychological bonds. We become more interested in people we spend energy understanding. The Sigma leverages this perfectly. By not revealing every detail, plan, or opinion, he keeps minds actively engaged. Cognitive investment becomes emotional investment. His mystery is strategic. He shares what builds connection while keeping personal matters private. Success philosophy? Yes. Childhood trauma? No. Current projects? Yes. Daily routines? No. Mystery prevents categorization. When people figure you out completely, they mentally file you away. Predictability kills attraction. The Sigma's mystery prevents dismissal. Just when someone thinks they understand him, he reveals new dimensions. This unpredictability maintains long-term interest, creating ongoing intrigue rather than temporary fascination. The result, a man who draws people in, creates relationship adventure, and strategically reveals himself for maximum impact. The Sigma demonstrates love through leadership, being worthy of love, not desperate for it. While society teaches emotional availability, the Sigma shows love by becoming someone who naturally attracts it. This means emotional self-sufficiency. Most men expect partners to manage their emotions. The Sigma comes complete, choosing love to enhance life rather than needing it for completion. This elevates relationships. When you choose to share happiness rather than need someone to create it, that choice carries meaning. You attract abundance, not neediness. The Sigma leads through action, not words. Instead of constantly professing love, he demonstrates it through reliability and self-improvement. His love is substance backed by behavior. Leadership includes standards. He doesn't accept poor treatment because healthy relationships require boundaries. He loves people enough to require their best, not enable their worst. During conflicts, he maintains calm over reactivity. He addresses issues directly, stays centered, works towards solutions. This creates security and stability. Most importantly, he inspires others toward their best selves rather than accepting their worst. His standards create environments where partners naturally rise to higher potential. The result, a man who cultivates love through character and leadership. His emotional distance isn't a barrier to love. It's the foundation that makes true love possible. This is the Sigma way. Loving powerfully by being powerful, connecting deeply by maintaining depth. The Sigma male's emotional distance isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's not a lack of love. It's love refined, love strategized, love that refuses to be cheapened by giving it away to everyone who asks. While the world mistakes emotional availability for emotional strength, the Sigma understands that true emotional power comes from selectivity, from the ability to remain untouchable until someone proves they deserve access to your inner world. This isn't about becoming emotionally unavailable to everyone. It's about becoming emotionally strategic with your investments. It's about understanding that your emotional energy is your most valuable currency. And like any wise investor, you don't throw it at every opportunity that presents itself. The Sigma's approach to emotional distance creates deeper, more meaningful connections because it forces others to earn their place in your emotional landscape. It builds relationships on respect rather than neediness, on value rather than availability, on genuine connection rather than convenient companionship. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to stop being everyone's emotional dumping ground and start being someone's emotional destination, then this channel is exactly where you need to be. Subscribe now, because we're building a community of men who understand that true strength comes not from wearing your heart on your sleeve, but from knowing exactly when to show it and to whom. The Sigma path isn't easy, but it's the path of the exceptional. And exceptional men don't just happen, they're built through strategic choices, one emotional boundary at a time.